Well, another one off the 2021 watch list. Luther was a series that I received a box set of a few years ago, and I'll admit, well, I heard positive things about it. I, I didn't really know that much about it. I knew it was a police cop show. I knew it involved Idris Elba. I, I don't know. I just hadn't really seen it. Well, I recently finished series three, and series one, I'll admit, was good. Series two, I think, was a little better. Series three is what I think finally convinced me that I did enjoy the show. Now, I've also got Series 4, which I may look over at some point in the future, and I know they also did release Series 5 at one point, but to give you a brief roundup, you got a cop, DCI John Luther, played by Idris Elba. He's a cop who's kind of rough, tough, and gruff. He tries to play by the rules as much as he can, but then recognises that sometimes it's not always easy. Now, Series 3, he's once again joined by a whole host of returning characters, including his partner, DS Justin Ripley, played by Warren Brown, DSU Martin Schenk, played by Dermot Crowley, and DS Benny Silver, played by Michael Smiley. Now, in this particular series, they end up going up against a killer who steals people's shoes. At the same time, trying to find a cyber troll, to which at that time I think they find that the killer who steals shoes is pretty much a legacy killer for one who previously done it, and a vigilante killer named Tom Marwood, played by Elliot Cohen. Now, Tom Marwood's wife had been murdered a couple of years ago. She had been kind of hard and murdered, and mainly what he wants is, at first he just wants to kind of hunt down people who've done bad things and got away with it, and kill them. However, when he's confronted by Luther, he comes up with a compromise, which is that he pretty much sets up a webcam and says to everyone on the internet, okay, this person did something bad. Contact Go to this place if you think they should die, and this place if you think they should live. Vigilante justice style. Which honestly, I'll admit, got quite hard to watch, especially when he was going after a man who had killed, well, no, who had done some unsavory things, and then he effectively sent him up for a hanging, which became rather difficult to watch. Now, as well as having to deal with all of this, Luther also has to deal with two police officers who are seemingly trying to bring him down. That being DSU George Stark, played by David O'Hara, and DSI Erin Gray, who had previously appeared in Series 2, played by Nikki Amaka Bird. Both of whom, I don't necessarily think they want him dead, I just think they kind of want him off the force, possibly believing that somebody needs to bring him down because he's too good for his own good. I'm not entirely sure. And that also leads him eventually in the final episode to. Well, hang on, before I get to that. He also manages to get a new love interest in the form of Mary Day, played by Sienna Guillory. Now, his first love interest from the first series, Zoe Luther, who was played by the one who played Susie Costello in Torchwood, which there are a couple of Doctor Who actors or Whoniverse actors who did manage to leap over. I mean, yeah, you've got the woman who played Susie Costello in Torchwood, who was in the first series. Yeah, she was good to see. There's also Mark McGann. No, not Mark. Paul McGann, who'd been playing her boyfriend, the man who's dating Luther's ex-wife, which he didn't show up in this particular series, which I felt was a shame. But to be honest, if Luther was getting a new love interest, maybe sticking that guy in there may have been a little bit overstuffed. But as I said, Nikki Amaka Bird also appeared in Torchwood, and so did Michael Smiley, who plays Benny Silver. Yeah, played Into the Dalek. Now, as I said, Luther does end up getting a new girlfriend in this particular series named Mary Day, played by Sienna Guillory, a woman who accidentally hits Luther's car, and they're perfectly similar to each other about it. They talk about, like, you know what, we can do this with insurance, you know what, we can sort this out. How about I meet you for a drink later and we can talk more about it? To which their relationship is very nice. And that eventually leads him, in the final episode of this particular series, to re-encounter the. I'm not entirely sure if she's more like Irene Adler or more like James Moriarty, Alice Morgan, played once again by Ruth Wilson, his slightly mad criminal love interest. Now, I was also pointed out to me that Ruth Wilson is also an actress in His Dark Materials, which I personally haven't watched. I have got family members who do watch His Dark Materials. She plays Marissa Coulter in there. I personally never have. I think I missed the boat on that one. But upon seeing her in this, the family member who had seen His Dark Materials said to me, "Yeah, she's pretty good at playing mad." To which I gather her character in His Dark Materials is slightly more on the mad scale as well. But Ruth Wilson really does play the kind of mad character very well, and you can definitely tell Alice Morgan is on the bridge. Not quite cackling in her cell mad, but she's also got enough sense to be able to tell bad situations, which it's nice to see her again. Now, as I said, while the first series I thought was okay, the second series I liked a lot more. Third series is possibly the one that convinced me I am a fan of this show. Like, I think compared to other crime shows that I have said I like before, like Castle and Bones, those two I think rely much more on humour. Like, you see the episodes, but also you mainly tune in for the humour going on between the two leads. With a show like Luther, you're mainly focused on the main character. Like the main character in this case of John Luther. I mean, he's definitely got sidekicks such as Justin Ripley, but you're mainly focusing on him, and it's a lot darker compared to those other shows that I mentioned. But at the same time, while those other shows you can get drawn into the humour of the situation, here you get drawn into the drama, and even a few of the scenes that I do remember quite strongly while watching this. One was, I think, in episode 2 when the killer ends up invading the house of 3 nurses, and ultimately leads him to a confrontation with Luther in one of the bedrooms, where he ends up falling out the window and falling through the greenhouse. I think he still ends up living, but I remember that scene quite strongly. And the other, of course, being the confrontation with Tom Marwood atop a skyscraper with Mary and Alice, which that scene I feel is particularly strong. Now, this particular series also may have changed my mind on something about Idris Elba. Now, what's also kind of ironic about this is that I was watching this series, watching it, really enjoying it, and then I think the same day the trailer for the Suicide Squad sequel dropped with Elba playing Bloodsport, which I'm pretty excited for. Even if it gets released on streaming services and I have to get it later on DVD, I don't necessarily mind. But he does look to be fairly good as Bloodsport in that, which I'm very excited for the Suicide Squad. But it also made me change my mind on something about Idris Elba. Now, one thing you do occasionally see on social media with Idris Elba is some people have been suggesting that Idris Elba become the next James Bond, which, okay, I can... I don't know about that one, but the one I want to talk about here is whenever a Doctor actor on Doctor Who announces that they're leaving the show, there are obviously almost 100 posts of people saying who they think should be the next Doctor Who. And one that I've seen pop up probably the most frequently was Idris Elba. Now, whenever I saw these posts, I would always picture Idris Elba in his Heimdall role from the Thor franchise. And I never quite thought he would fit. I'm just like, really? Okay, I don't really get it. But after seeing him in Luther, like finishing Luther Series 3, seeing that, I can kind of see what people are talking about. I mean, while I couldn't necessarily see the Asgardian Watcher being a Time Lord, upon seeing Idris Elba as a rough, tough cop who is trying to play by the rules but isn't always able to, I can kind of see what people mean when they say they want him as the Doctor. I mean, he wouldn't necessarily be my first choice on the matter, but upon finishing Luther Series 3, I can kind of see why people keep suggesting him for Doctor Who. I mean, I think at this point he has passed over into possibly a little bit too famous territory. Like, I don't know, maybe it's grown too big or too expensive for the show, but I can definitely see why people suggest him. But overall, Luther Series 3, it first broadcast in 2013, so I know I'm almost a decade late on getting into the show, but having seen it now, I really enjoyed it. I mean, like Castle, I ended up taking a year off from it, but I came back to it, and it's better than ever. So, that's my quick thoughts on Luther Series 3. I might get around to Series 4 later in the year. I know it's only 2 episodes long if I've got time, but until then, I really enjoyed Series 3. I think it's my favourite of the series so far. There you go, my quick thoughts on Luther Series 3. Anyway, till next time, see ya.